Stone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. And what you're looking at is a shield wall, all right? And these are the Lacedaemonians in the Bible. And there's a reason why the story of the Maccabees was never told, because the Maccabees are blood relatives to these great warriors in antiquity, which the so-called white man claims for himself. You see, by speaking the truth about history, that would destroy all the lies that he established now, because if you go on the internet, you go on YouTube, it's just going to be littered with images of white males, so-called white males, Edomites, as the Spartans, as the Greeks, as the Vikings, as the Danes and the Brits. And the truth of the matter is they were none of those. All that came about during the Renaissance, and then after the Renaissance, the iconoclasm, the destruction of the icons, and they, in the same way that they've stolen lands and then claimed them for themselves, they stole history and claimed it for themselves. Put their faces in places and times when they were not the ruling class people, but often in the same time that they were servants to the ruling class people who were brown in complexion, not pale at all. Right? You have to remember, the European was not a white person, a so-called. Europeans were Negroid type people, dark-fleshed people, until they were taken over by Alexander of Macedon. That's how the white man became European. The same way that the white man became Australian.
Alexander the Great, the Macedon.
And these Lacedaemonians right here, these Spartans, are Israelites, and the Bible bears record to it, and that's why they can't go into a movie about the Maccabees, because that's in the Maccabean history. All right, the letters and the communication between them and the Spartans, and how they were all of the stock of Abraham. So that would screw up this lie that the so-called white man has going, because now they would have to explain the Judean connection of the Spartans, all right, which would make them Jewish by today's standard, all right, and then they'd have to explain that, and then that would open up a can of worms of things that they just simply don't want to talk about. How that they're neither Jewish, the so-called white man is neither Jewish. Well, actually, they are Jewish, but they're not Judeans. They're not Judites. They're not Levites or Benjamites, which those are the three kingdoms which made up the kingdom of Judah. All right, but let me read a quick scripture, and then we'll listen to this lie for a second. But the first scripture that we're going to read is the beginning of the conspiracy of white supremacy, so-called Edomite supremacy, because they were the head of these nations that made these plans to put the Israelites in subjection and to erase their culture. Because you have to realize that every captivity that our people were in the past, they always knew who they were. This last captivity, they stripped us of our heritage. This is Psalms 83:1. And it reads, "Keep not thou silence, O power. Hold not thy peace, and be not still. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, they gather together. And they that hate thee have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones." See, we're the hidden ones, right? The Israelites were hidden. "They have said, Come, let us cut them off from being a nation." And how will they do that? False science, false history, and lies. False science, false history, and lies. False science, false history, and lies. All right? But it says, "They have said, Come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. They have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against these, the tabernacles, the houses, the race of Edom," so-called white people, "and the Ishmaelites," so-called Arabs, "of Moab and Hagarim," the Chinese, and more Ishmaelites, "Gebal and Ammon, Gabal, I don't remember, but Ammon are Japanese. And Amalek, those are the people who rule the entire world. Those are your Jewish people today. That's what the Germans would use the slur or the shortened version of kite for Amalekite, okay? Which is a derogative term to them. All right, and it says the Philistines, who were Africans, and the inhabitants of Tyre, who were also so-called Africans, and Assur also have joined with them. All right, and I'm pretty sure that Assur were also Shemitic people. So these nations came together against our people, and once they got the dominion, once Esau got dominion again after Satan was loose for a little season. All right, after after the fall of Rome in the Dark Ages, when the so-called Negroes began to rule Europe and Rome. All right, for that 1,000-year period, when Esau came back into power, he came back into power with a vengeance, and so he set out to destroy all the icons that were all throughout Europe. There were too many. There are too many left there today to prove the presence of so-called black people during the Dark Ages, during medieval times, during the time of the fall of Rome, the black emperors of Rome, which they just try to omit or not talk about in history. That they got this thing now, this critical race theory. No, what about critical race facts? Because see, they've lied about everything. They've stolen, murdered, raped, robbed, and that's how they got on top and got everything that they have. And and as you're going to hear the Elamite doctor, professor, speak, how they just lie and they change the languages. So rape, robbery, murder, theft, deceit turns into discovery. Okay? Well, here we go.
Of all history, known for their strength, discipline, and courage, they were truly fine examples of what the ancient Greek world could bring to bear on the battlefield. But among these, none more represented the ideal hoplite than the 300 hand-picked soldiers who defended the king. Today, let us...
So now they're showing you Leonidas and the Spartans as being white people. Well, let's see what the Bible has to say for anyone who might be new about the Jews in the tribe of Judah. All right? This is Jeremiah 14:2, and it reads, Judah mourneth in the gates thereof, languish, because they had no leadership. They are black unto the ground. They are black like the soil, which is really brown. And the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. And now you've had people involved in Christianism, like Vocab alone, who will make the false statements that the black was talking about the gates. But when you look up the word black in the Hebrew, which this text was written in originally, the word there is kadar, which means dark skin. So the image on the screen is an outright lie. Let's get another one. My favorite one is Lamentations 4:8. All right? And this portion is specifically for anyone who might be new. Those who've been studying and learning, they know this. But this is Lamentations 4:8, and it reads, Their visage, meaning when you look at them, is blacker than a coal. They are not known in the streets, their skin cleaving to their bones. It is withered, it has also become like a stick because it was starved. But it lets you know that the Jews in Lamentations, when they were lamenting, they were dark as a coal. So they were really dark chocolate, really dark brown people for the most part. Outside of those, they're scattered. And it's amazing how they can get the dress right, the swords right. Those swords are the type swords that they actually use with the fattened head and the narrow end. And that's where they get the kukri style blades from to this day. Because those were excellent stabbers and choppers. All right? I'm a collector of swords, so I've learned a bit about them over the years. All right? And that's an authentic. So they can get the dress right, but they can't get the skin right. Why? Because these people are quite simply liars. This is let me grab this insert. Actually, this screenshot on my phone that someone left on my on one of my videos, and it was from Nameless Soul, and it reads, Check out this book, Megalith, The Black Builders of Stonehenge, written by a white man named Almer von Fletcher. This is an excerpt from it. One of the plains of Wiltshire in England lie the remains of ancient giant stones. Exactly which people built these stones remains the eternal question. Just like the pyramids of Egypt, its origins remain shrouded in mystery, which is not because the Israelites built the pyramids in Egypt while they were in slavery. Right? Various theories which have been put forward as the race or otherwise of these builders, but still much uncertainty remains. The evidence is simply overwhelming that the earliest inhabitants of Britain and Ireland were blacks. And so these are those original Europeans that we were talking about. They got driven out of Europe and put into servitude and absorbed into Alexander's army. Because see, the way that the Edomites have portrayed ancient Greece and Rome in movies and on screen and in art like this is that it was just all white people there, and that's a lie. Greece and Rome were a metropolis like Chicago or New York. All races were there, but the Edomites were the ruling class people, just like they are today. They were the ruling class people, but they weren't done, and most of their armies, just like today, were made up of brown people. The gladiators that were fighting and dying in the arenas are the same gladiators that are in the arenas today. Your dominant football, basketball, baseball, and very few collectively compared to the white man shining those as compared to the people of color. And that's just a fact. The majority of your champions in MMA are people of color, mainly Judah or Israel, meaning the Northern Kingdom. Those make up the majority of your champions. And every time there is an Edomite champion, they always lose that to an Israelite. They don't hold on to their championships long. All right? So that came from a so-called white male. So you know what? That makes me want to go to Psalms 64 and verse 8. So let's go with that. Psalms 64, read verse 8 and 9, and it reads, "So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves, all that see them shall flee away." See, that information came from this Fletcher. He gave you and that was an insert from his book, that the earliest inhabitants of Britain and Ireland were so-called black people. That's who the Romans were fighting, Verse 9, "And all men shall fear and shall declare the work of God, but they shall wisely consider his doing." All right? So the Lord is going to, matter of fact, let me grab a precept. It's in my Bible. It was Jeremiah 50 and 28. The Lord is lifting up a standard, and it's starting with the men of the Lord speaking his truth. It says, "The voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of Yahweh our power, the vengeance of his temple," the temple of David. The third temple is spiritual.
Declare the Creator's power, who is the Spirit, not know that name he said, because that name's the devil's name. Devil got 360-something odd names so far as we know.
It's being built now. It's not a physical building. It's the men of the Lord. The tabernacles of David being built are the third temple. And they're being built. He's setting them in order right before your faces.
Also, there's something going on about the third temple. If you didn't know, we actually worshiped outside. We didn't worship in no buildings. And there's a hijack with that, but I'll let you know that further, because if I talk about that, I'm going to have to show you so much evidence that it's not funny, because most of you ain't going to believe it.
All right? Now, to prove that this is a lie even more so, let's go to the book of Maccabees. Now, we read about the visual of the Jews, according to the Bible. Bible said that they were dark, like Negroes. This is First Maccabees 12, and I'm gonna start at verse 1 through 5, and it says, "Now when Jonathan saw that time served him, he chose certain men and sent them to Rome to confirm and renew the friendship they had with them." Because see, the Maccabees had actually fought, like I told you. It was a mixed multitude of people in Rome and in Greece at this time. Not like the portrayal in the movies. All right? He sent letters also to the Lacedaemonians. That's the symbol that you're looking at on their shields. That upside down V is an L in Greek, standing for Lacedaemonians. All right? So they went unto Rome and entered into the Senate and said, "Jonathan, the high priest, and the people of the Jews sent us unto you to the end ye should renew friendship which ye had with them, and league as in former time. Upon this the Romans gave letters unto the governors of every place that they should bring them into the land of Judea peacefully. And this is the copy of the letters which Jonathan wrote to the Lacedaemonians." Now let's jump up to verse 20 and 21. Who exactly are the Lacedaemonians? First Maccabees 12 and 20. "Arius, the king of the Lacedaemonians, to Onias the high priest, greeting. It is found in writing that the Lacedaemonians and the Jews are brethren, that they are of the stock of Abraham." You see that? So the Spartans are of Abraham. All right, because verse 6, 1 Maccabees 12 and 6, "Jonathan the high priest and the elders of the nation and the priests and the other of the Jews unto the Lacedaemonians, their brethren, send greetings." So their brethren of the same flesh, of the stock, of the sperm line of Abraham. So the Lacedaemonians are what you would call Jews today, which the Jews made up of three tribes: Benjamin, Judah, and Levi. See, these Edomites are just liars, man. They're liars, and their conspiracies are being found out. The lies, it's over for them, man. Here, there's a video that I've fallen in love with.
There are no good apples out there. White people.
And this is a Elamite, a brown woman, all right? An Elamite doctor from Yale University, going in on white people, and basically their time is up, man. This is why they're being spoken of, and this is why they're coming so hard against critical race theory. Like in the top, it said, "Fired Air Force." You can't see it right now. "Commander issues warning to military." All right, I'm going to address that video, Yahweh Ratazah, later on today or tomorrow. But nevertheless, let's let it play.
Anyways, we don't go by that. He just said that bull crap. We don't do the chicken and rice and Mr. J here. All y'all calling on the same name, different languages, 360 names, the devil. The creator has no name. The name is not pronounceable by the flesh or anything that can be inside any type of bodily form. You need to start recognizing this. We did a lesson on that a while back. Alright, it goes deeper than what you think.
There are no good apples out there. White people make my blood boil. When you say there are no good apples out there, what kind of claim are you making?
I'm talking about people have this idea that racism is something that if you're consciously racist or if you're a Klan member, and I'm sort of making the claim that racism is something that is unconscious and it is actually in everyone, and everyone uses these words to...
Now, I disagree with that. Racism, I agree with Dr. Anderson's, it's a lot of things, but the main thing that is when you have the power to oppress and suppress someone financially, and when you're able to hide who someone is, when you can create a whole false pseudoscience and create rumors about people that they have particular defects and diseases and things of that nature, then control their financial existence. That is the highest form and the most powerful form of racism.
They're like, I know that racism is systemic, and yet individually, when you call them out, they'll be like, well, it's not me. You can't say that. And so there's a disconnect between use of the word systemic and saying that racism is everywhere, but the moment you point it out individually, there's sort of people disown their own violence and racism.
Would it be fair to say, based on your expertise, that white people are psychopathic?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's many lies that, and didn't get to that part because what I delivered was only part of a first series of talks. But the level of lying that white people do that has started since colonialism, we're just used to it. Such as every time that you steal a country, you loot, you say you've discovered something. I mean, this level of lie is actually part of history.
Yeah, because it gets put in the history books and it's written softly like that. And though what these Edomites are complaining about critical race theory, because those soft versions of it, those complete lies, was taught to the children. So when the truth comes out, it's like, no, you didn't discover. You came, your men kicked in doors. They raped women. They burned people alive. They gutted people. They hung people. They enslaved people. They tarred and feathered people. They quartered people. They tied people to horses and multiple horses and hit them and have the horses run in other directions and rip their bodies apart. They stole their land, their resources, and in a lot of cases they even took on their heritages and claimed themselves, or just completely rename you and give you a new heritage according to their choosing. Put you in categories according to their choosing so that they could dictate and control history.
Cooked you alive, burnt you at the stake, and castrated
you. We don't say that we killed all these people, we got rid of all the Native Americans. We say we discovered America. You don't talk about the level of death. You don't talk about the level of what actually occurred. You wipe the slate clean, you sanitize the violence, and you actually got lost along the way. You're trying to go to India, and then you say you discovered something. And this level of...
Which is a lie, because Cristobal Colon came to America with 5 Hebrew interpreters. Morenos, Moors, so-called black men, Judites. Okay? Because Christopher Columbus, aka Cristobal Colon, knew that he would encounter Hebrew-speaking people in the Americas. Copper colored, like dark pennies. All right? Brown people like the one on the screen and darker. All right? That were forced to speak Spanish and Portuguese and forced to become Catholic at the edge of a sword and a spear. All right? And now they're labeled as Hispanic or Native.
Discovery is everywhere. You've discovered vegetarianism. You've discovered yoga. You've discovered everything is a discovery, and it's all actually stolen.
Whoa. It's heavy, and it's all actually stolen. This is Wisdom of Solomon 10:5. Moreover, the nations in their wicked conspiracy, going back to Psalms 83, being confounded, she, being the wisdom, found out the righteousness and preserved him blameless unto God and kept him strong against the tender compassions toward his son. So look, Esau Edom is exposed, man. The world hates you and is coming against you. Your time is up.